heavy sigh.
Welcome to V2V podcast, everybody.
It's episode 26.
Episode 26.
Yeah, we made it over the hump, I guess.
Yeah.
25 was the hump. That was pretty good. 25 was pretty excellent. It was a really good
episode, yeah.
I think so.
If I toot my own horn?
Honk honk. Like we need to throw in a sound effect there. Right. We might be able to dig something up. Just litter this whole episode with sound effects.
Yeah, right.
Although some people recently have been telling me that there's too much sound.
Okay.
Like too much music, too much sound.
Yeah.
Strip it back.
Well, maybe they could dislike the video or unlike the video then for us. Because that always makes us happy. We're a fan of that.
It means that they're paying attention.
That too. Yeah.
Please, if you don't like what we're doing, please give us a dislike.
Know. Yeah.
Yes.
And let us know in comments.
Comments are helpful too. We can only get better by brutal criticism.
Yes. Destroy us.
Otherwise, we think we're doing fine.
Yeah.
Right?
We just keep going with Arnold and things like that. Yeah.
That seems to be surprisingly popular, by the way.
Jesus Christ. It's
unbelievable. There's no accounting for taste, though,
Yeah.
I mean, I don't know these people.
I'm brainwashing them to like my Arnold.
Your Arnold has been, degrading, too, I've noticed.
Yeah. It's not getting better.
Have you noticed that?
Yeah, I couldn't hold it together for the movie things because I kept thinking about the characters of the movies while doing it. Right. So staying as Arnold was kind of a rocky road for me.
Hello? Is this the V2V podcast?
Yes, it is. You're speaking with Aurelius. How can I help you?
I have a problem with your last episode.
Oh, really? What's that?
What the fuck are you doing making fun of Arnold Schwarzenegger?
Who?
Schwarzenegger.
You say that again?
Schwarzenegger. Arnold Schwarzenegger.
Oh, yes. What's the problem?
Arnold is a great man. You should be ashamed of yourselves for ambushing him into ridiculous interviews.
He sounded really sad for almost the whole time.
Yeah.
Whatever he was saying sounded really like he was just having a really hard time.
Yeah, I don't think he liked those roles for auditioning. Usually the movie is made for him and built around him. The writer goes, okay, well I'm writing an Arnold movie, and then the story begins around Arnold. And of course he always wins and he's impervious to everything. Impervious.
Sure, and the words that are easy for him to say and for people to understand.
Yeah. Yeah.
The
ones with the least vowels. Wow. Yeah.
Right. Yeah, and you stay away from W's.
Yeah.
I mean, there's the classic line from, what is it called? Red Heat, I think the movie is. Where he's riding his motorcycle home, and he gets home and to his little house, and his wife is in the kitchen.
She's drunk.
And she's drunk, and she throws a cake at him, and he says, "You should not drink and bake."
Yeah.
It's almost nothing better than that.
No. They're very simple, quick comebacks to everything. Or when he kills someone, he has to say something funny. Because, it's Arnold, so you have to laugh right after. He's a famous comedian.
Right. Yeah. Right. One of my favorite Arnold stories is the famous Terminator line, "I'll be back." And apparently, they had to figure that out on the set because the line was originally written, "I'll come back," and it didn't sound nearly menacing enough. Like when he said it, "I'll come back." And that was, I guess, that was his choice. You know, "I'll be back," and you know, a legend was born.
Well, some true acting, some true like craftsmanship, like on set. Yeah, James, I don't like that. I'm going to say I'll be big. How about that? Yeah, it's more powerful.
Right. And I guess they didn't realize, like, you know, they're like, all right, whatever. Something wasn't working with "I'll come back," and yeah, let's try it. And I guess when they saw it, they were like, holy crap, this is like the best thing ever. So you never know.
Yeah.
But, you know, if people like the bad Arnold readings, you know, that's cool. Like, they're not really meant to be good, in a sense.
No.
Like, you know, these are things that he didn't accomplish.
Yeah.
So, of course, they're not going to be up to the standard of the stuff that everyone knows. That makes sense.
Not that that's any good either, but yeah, sure.
I think Arnold redeems himself just because he's a nice guy.
Yeah, I'm the nice guy. I just molest the nanny and, you know, grope in the darkness. You know, I was talking about this yesterday with Mom, like about how sort of, you know, the United States kind of does things that other countries do culturally, publicly.
Yeah.
But we do them kind of in the dark and in the closet, so it's okay. And we kind of paint it up pretty around that. Like, we make a nice garden around it, you know?
Sure.
But, like, how we're not really that much different to any other culture. And really, we're just, you know, murdering barbarians.
No, we're, you know, really, we're constantly kind of lying to ourselves the whole time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, think about this, like, the idea that almost every European country, their population densities are like 4 times that of, like, even like New York City. Very packed in.
Yeah.
Very low crime, though. The problems that they face aren't nearly as great as the things that we encounter over here. And I think it really has to do with that thing they were talking about, the lack of willingness to be, like, truthful, to be open, instead we want to, you know, hide behind this concept of, I don't even know what it is, like, America. Like, and it doesn't work. You know, it just doesn't.
No.
It doesn't work. Nobody seems to be happy.
No.
You know, there's this weird thing going on where, regardless of whatever it is going on in someone's life, good or bad, they're just not, you know, that happy.
Speaking of... Brett Kavanaugh.
Yes, interesting that you would bring that up.
Isn't it?
I have a list.
To drink. What do you like?
His lies.
Oh, cool.
I have a list of all of his lies.
Yeah, do that. I want that. Go on then.
Yeah, say what you were going to say. Like Brett Kavanaugh, what?
I don't know. How many times have you blacked out? Have you blacked out? I don't know. I mean, just like Mr. Deflection, Mr. Not Answer the Question, Mr. Fake Tears.
How is that even possible that anyone would tolerate that?
Or like not see through it. Like, I mean, honestly, this guy is a complete wreck. And you want him as a...
Even the Democrats, right? Like,
yeah.
Why would they just sit there and take it?
I know.
As if it was okay that he was doing any of that stuff.
I know.
Like the idea that if it was, I mean, I've heard this a few times. If this was a woman, and she started yelling and crying and accusing people of conspiracies, like, she will probably be handcuffed and escorted out of the room.
Yeah.
Like this woman is hysterical. Get her out of here. But no, not this guy. So
it's just such a shit show, this country at the moment, man. It's just such a shit show.
So the first lie, that he told was that no president has ever consulted more widely or talked with more people from more backgrounds to seek input about a Supreme Court nomination. That's how he introduced himself in the first hearing.
Okay.
But that's not true at all. Like that makes no sense. There have been many presidents who have consulted many more people from much wider backgrounds to seek input about a Supreme Court nomination. Like it just, even if you didn't know it was a lie, you would guess that that's probably not true. Because look at the president. First of all, like that guy didn't consult with anybody.
China loves me. They love the size of my brain. They love my big brain. They love it.
He's a very stable genius.
My God.
So the other, it's interesting because the other candidate, the guy who actually got on the court, Neil Gorsuch, he didn't act like that at all. Like,
right.
A lot of people didn't like his points of view or politics or the decisions that he made as a judge, but he was very normal and respectful. And, I think,
didn't have skeletons in his closet?
Apparently not, because I'm sure that people were looking. Why wouldn't they?
Sure.
Right? So I think this one can be filed under come the fuck on. Like, give me a fucking break. All right.
Okay, but so let's just talk about this for a second, politically, because this is a total destruction of the Republican Party, right? I mean, or not. I don't know.
Well, it's turned into something else at the very least. Like, it's not.
Yeah.
How can it? Every time I think of a question, my brain explodes.
I know. I know. It's like a million questions, fragmented. I know. It's
So he said this under oath. Okay. He said,
okay.
I grew up in a city plagued by gun violence and gang violence and drug violence.
Okay.
Brett Kavanaugh. He's claiming that he grew up in a city plagued by violence all around him.
Yeah. Where'd he grow up?
Well, he grew up in Washington, D.C., but he did not grow up in the part of Washington, D.C. that was plagued by any of this stuff. He grew up behind country club walls and gates and very exclusive neighborhoods, and
right.
His I forget which one it was, but his mother was a judge or lobbyist, and his father was a judge.
Right. You don't
that
get
was another
any more
thing.
elite
He claimed
than
that he'd had no connection with
Yale. Yeah.
Which is obviously not true.
Yeah. Complete Yale boy.
So by saying this, he's saying that he's had personal familiarity with this gun violence issue in Washington, D.C. It's not a very nice place. Like large parts of it, it's filled with black people, right?
Yeah.
Like that's, and he's making all these assertions and being very subtly racist at the same time by saying this stuff, because he knows the associations that people are going to make when he makes these claims. So it's just ridiculous. It's like absolutely ridiculous.
Oh dear.
I mean, I don't know. I don't understand what's going on.
Like, I wouldn't want an emotional judge anyway. Like, someone who falls apart like that under pressure anyway. You know, regardless of everything else. You know, he's clearly not emotionally stable. He's a complete alcoholic. He's exactly who we all despise. He's one of those 1%ers. You know, he grew up that way.
Right. It would have been so much nicer if he would have stayed in obscurity and no one ever knew who this guy was unless they happened to be in front of him at the circuit court in Washington, D.C. or whatever. You know?
Yeah.
That's the other crazy thing. He's already a judge on basically the second most powerful court in the country already.
Yeah, the justice system is complete mess, man. The justice system is full of fucking crooks and like villains. All of them.
He's the guy who denied the 17-year-old immigrant girl an abortion and tried to wait it out, basically.
Yeah.
These delays so that she wouldn't be able to make the decision to not have the kid.
Yeah, I know.
Like, that's who this guy is. Like, that's just,
I know.
like, incredibly bad.
It's just horrendous, man. The whole thing's so horrendous. Do you think the FBI is going to find anything? And how do you think the response is going to be to that?
I think that's a good question. I think that there should be another hearing, though. And they should, re-nail him on the stuff that they do find. Which, I guess that's going to be another, firestorm of fake Republican outrage, though.
Absolutely, yeah. And psychological warfare that's going on in this country. It's a cold civil war, you know?
Yeah, right? It's interesting, all the talk of, a few months ago about, the Civil War is coming. Well, maybe it is, or maybe it's here. Maybe this is it. It just looks like it's slow motion, or as you said, a cold Civil War.
Yeah.
It's an interesting concept.
Well, it's just lack of ability of the general population to actually discern truth, and only to sort of side with party and ideals.
Right. I mean, and there's all this other little, weird, minutia stuff, that he could have easily admitted to,
yeah,
all of it, all of the yearbook stuff, which are so ridiculous,
the Devil's Triangle,
the Renata thing,
which isn't a drinking game. It's a fucking thing between two guys and one girl. And let's get that straight.
Right, and it's not gay unless you make eye contact.
It's just incredibly, ritualistically sort of, typical of what those guys do, you know?
See, I think that I think a lot of these senators were afraid to touch these things because they knew exactly what that stuff was. And
of course.
And they didn't want anything, in the future to come up about them and what they might have done along the same lines.
I mean, I'd never heard of the Devil's Triangle before. And I'm kind of I'm considered pretty versed in doing sort of off-color things in my life. I mean, fuck, I've smoked, some unknown chemicals out of some unknown sort of vessels before. I've in college, and I've stayed in some pretty interesting motels in my time. But I mean, this is really something new to me. Devil's Triangle.
Yeah.
Ooh. And boofing.
And the whole popularity of boofing, my understanding where that's a thing is really restricted to people who are trying to get drugs into prison.
Yeah.
That's the only real reference I know.
Well, you know that he grew up in this, very violent city that was plagued with gangs and violence. So,
right.
Maybe he learned some prison culture there,
Right, the brothers on the street talking about boofing.
Yeah, he went out and learned how to boof from the brothers on the street.
Yes. One that I really liked, the question he was asked is, he asked about whether or not he'd ever blacked out from drinking, and he said, no, but I've gone to sleep.
Yeah.
Like, oh my God. Come on, man. And they didn't press him on it. I guess part of it was the weird 5-minute thing, but
yeah,
I think that could have been much better coordinated.
Of course.
Where they just fire one after another, like in succession, these questions at him, and forget all the speechifying, and just keep hitting those same things and make him
cave,
lose it, right? Like make him blow up, make him like flip the table over or something. Like,
what you're talking about is more of an interrogation. This just didn't seem like that to me. This just seemed like a public. Well, we're going to show you a few things and kind of make a mockery because this is a political show.
Right.
It's a shit show. It's a power move for the Democrats as much as it is for a power move for the Republicans.
Exactly. So there was one thing I learned about the FBI investigation that may bear some fruit, and it's the second woman, who Deborah Ramirez, who claims that he exposed herself to her at a Yale dorm room party.
Yeah.
And she had to touch his junk to push him away. So
the dick in the box. Hey, the dick in the box. Hey.
I wonder if that was the inspiration for that.
Probably.
So she went public in late September, just a couple of weeks ago, and Kavanaugh claims that that's when he first heard about it, when it was published in the New Yorker. But back in July, before this allegation had gone public, friends of his friends of his were getting emails regarding keeping this quiet, before.
Man.
These people, it gets deeper. These people really knew about all of this stuff way before, and just were trying to sit on it because it would be a lot easier to push back if he was already confirmed to the court, because then he'd already be there, and he'd be at a much greater advantage to just knock all this stuff down because he's already there. I think that's the whole game plan. Get him on the court, and then deal with this stuff. But it didn't quite work out that way. And I just hope that, I think that what you were talking about, the Republicans just destroying themselves, is happening. And the only way that, one of the only ways that could be slowed down, I guess, is that if Trump dumped this guy and just decided to pick somebody else.
A girl.
I think they're
too against abortion. Yeah.
But I think they're
female.
too far down the road to do that now, because it would look really weak.
Right. They've already invested. Yeah.
Yeah. So I never vote in midterm elections. I don't think I ever have. Maybe once or twice.
Yeah.
I'm definitely voting this year.
Really?
Yeah.
I was thinking about registering.
I think part of the reason that really kind of solidified that for me was the whole elevator episode with the two women yelling at the senator Flake.
Yeah.
Who, because he had already, what happened is he put out a statement saying that he was going to vote yes. And,
yeah.
And, these two women happen to, have seen it as he was going into the senator's elevator, and they held the door open and demanded that he listen to them. I think if it wasn't for that, these two people, making these statements, that things would be different. And it made me realize that one person, this one senator, he on his own really kind of made a difference. These two women on their own really kind of made an impact,
Yeah.
One person can make a difference, and I think that's probably the silver lining to all this, is that maybe, and I know this is like a lot of wishful thinking really, but maybe people waking up just a little bit could help, a little bit. I don't know.
I just don't. Here's the thing for me, okay? Like, to get into the position where you get elected anyway, you're already bought and sold. It's this whole thing to me is ridiculous. I don't want to partake in it.
Right.
And I'm sorry. And I hope you guys can figure out a way to get some good people in there, but I don't believe in it. I think that, this whole thing was horrendous, and this poor woman was brought up in front of these people and had to recount this horrendous episode with this horrendous fucking drunk guy when she was in college, trying to just study, trying to have a future. Yeah, high school, sorry, my fault. Yeah. Just trying to be a kid in high school. And
right.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I didn't realize that. And I feel like the Democrats are equally as guilty of bringing this woman up and kind of, using her as a pawn in
Sure.
this whole thing, as the Republicans are of voting for this fucking evil piece of shit.
Right. Yeah.
So
exactly.
I can't partake in this anymore. I can't be a part of it.
Well, you kind of can't help it.
Never have.
That's the problem.
No, I
right?
know.
You know what I mean? Like,
I know.
The idea of getting, it's funny because this is almost exactly the same argument that people had regarding Trump. Get people who are unfamiliar with politics, are first timers, aren't corrupted. That's a little far-fetched, but you know what I mean? Like a fresh batch, so to speak, who, and, I don't know. I don't know if that works. I don't know if the system itself is so corrupted that it doesn't matter who's sitting there.
Yeah.
Because they'll immediately have to fall in line with the regular, way things are, have always been, kind of.
Yeah.
I don't know. I can't think of anything other to do. If there were other ideas, other even somewhat viable options.
That's interesting because apparently we have Jesse Ventura on the line, and he wants to be interviewed. So yeah. Jesse?
I don't want to talk to him about Chris Kyle though, because I've heard that story. I don't need to hear how his life was ruined by a false allegation of him punching somebody.
Listen to me. My life was ruined by Chris Kyle.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Mr. Ventura, can we talk about something else?
Yeah, I mean, this. Okay, sure. if I was president, I would win in a heartbeat if I was up there running for president.
Are you going to run?
Oh, I might. And I mean, I have a great running partner, to run with me,
Yeah. Who?
Hacksaw Jim Duggan.
Jim Duggan, huh?
Yeah.
Well, okay.
And I just
can't. You realize you can't run strictly on the legalization of marijuana, right?
Well, I think that marijuana should be legalized, though. And I think that, we should stop this war, this insane war on this plant.
No, I agree, but you need more of a platform than that.
Well, I'm just asking questions, There's nothing wrong with asking questions,
Oh, of course not, and that's what we're doing here, right? So, what are some of your other policy ideas that you would have as president?
Well, first of all, I'd like to reopen the 9/11 investigation, but first the JFK assassination, followed by exposing chemtrails and stopping HARP.
Okay, all right. Jesse Ventura, everybody.
Jesse stopped by.
See, that's part of the problem. People are kind of living in the past a little bit, and I'm not even faulting him and his ideas. There's nothing wrong with really wanting to reinvestigate JFK. I suppose that's a settled case, really, but 9/11, sure, we're coming up on 20 years. Maybe we should have a look back, but I'm just saying that shouldn't be a presidential platform. But, I think his heart's in the right place.
Yeah, I mean, I guess. I think he's a bit nuts, though, I mean, he had a bit of a strange life.
Definitely. Maybe we need a little bit of nuts. I don't know. We don't see. That's the thing. We just don't know.
Yeah.
And we live in a world where the president has fallen in love with the murderous dictator.
Yes.
Yeah. Wow. Even though when I first saw that photograph and of the speech and the quote, Kim and I fell in love. I was like, that can't be real. It said not photoshopped, and I was like, what? And then I looked it up. I looked it up. And,
what is it?
He said, okay, so he gave a speech last week at a rally and was talking about, he was bashing all the other politicians that he likes to bash, and then turned to North Korea and was talking about the wonderful letters that Kim Jong-un had written him, and that they were so beautiful and that they fell in love. Really? He really said that, and people were applauding and
this guy's nuts, man. Oh God, for fuck's sake! People are just stupid.
Yeah.
I feel like we should move on to our next topic. This is just what are we gonna do? This is just silly.
It's we had to. I guess we had to say it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad we said it, but what are we going to do?
Exactly.
I mean, get out and vote, folks, because I'm not going to vote, and I don't really want to go to Paris.
Alexei is not going to vote, and I am going to vote. And so, vote. for anybody. Just, I don't know, vote. So, I mentioned Parrish. There's a psychological syndrome called the Parrish syndrome.
Okay.
And it's a disorder that mainly, if only, affects Japanese nationals. And it occurs when they visit Paris.
Yeah.
And they get what would be called, I guess, extreme culture shock when their expectations of Paris don't meet the reality. And
they get extreme culture shock?
Yeah.
Right, okay.
Right, so they get high anxiety, delusions, feelings of persecution, and they just lose it, basically.
Right.
Yeah.
Huh.
That's very strange, and it's a real thing, and apparently it really only happens to Japanese people in Paris. But we were talking before we came on about other people experiencing the same kinds of things. I think I mentioned like the Venice Beach syndrome, where people show up and they think Venice is going to be a certain way because of stories they've heard.
Yeah.
And they get there and it's all very confusing. They don't know who to trust, who to talk to, what to do. They're buying CDs from the CD guys.
Yeah, and it's like what? It's like 17 blocks the boardwalk, but they're completely like confused about that and they can't figure it out.
Right, you get lost.
Yeah.
Get lost at the beach. But then if they don't just stay for a couple of days and they move there, or they're street kids or whatever, within a couple of weeks, as they get themselves familiarized with the place, they start to get what I would call like newcomer syndrome, which is this idea that they have it all figured out suddenly.
Right.
They get cocky and think that they, know where everything is and where all the cool spots are and who to talk to. And then very shortly after that, they realize how wrong they are. And then they leave.
Or they stay in delusion about it.
Right.
As we know, a few
down the
people.
line, yeah. Usually, well, even if they do run into trouble, sometimes they stay in that delusion and just chalk it up to, oh, that's part of the experience.
Yeah.
Like the theft and the violence and just the craziness is part of it. Like it's supposed to be that way.
Right.
Yeah. And I think that's common in any place that has enough hype that people have the wrong idea before they get there. Well, they hear stories and it doesn't quite measure up, so they manufacture reality in their head to make it match.
Sure.
Yeah.
I think that everyone going to a place pictures it, looks at pictures of it, and pictures it in their mind a different way than it usually is. And that's always jarring when you first get somewhere. It throws you off completely.
Yeah. Huh. There's another really weird psychological syndrome called the Fragoli syndrome.
Yeah, that one's weird. It's a rare psychological disorder that is often combined with paranoia. Fragoli syndrome is when someone thinks that different people are in fact all the same person, just in disguise.
Right.
This can then develop into a paranoid state whereby they believe that this one person is persecuting them, or perhaps following them around. Also, they can become confused about objects, places, and events, and believe them to all be the same as well. This disorder is related to their schemata or mind map. And so they will see someone who looks like a person they know, and then they will believe it is that person.
Yeah.
It's odd.
Yeah, you know what's really weird about that too, going back to some of the people that I knew at the beach, like,
Yeah.
I think I knew some people who kind of suffered from like a version of that. Like,
Yeah.
there was like one guy who seemed to be everywhere, who was always out to get him. Like,
Yeah.
yeah, and a lot of times that was it was the Snapchat guy.
Right. Evan.
Right, Evan. Right.
Yeah.
He seemed to be everywhere. Right.
Yeah. This one time I was sitting with Reed, and he goes, blue Nike sweat shoes. And I turn and, like, there's this guy walking, and I go, who's that? And he goes, that's Evan. And it's not Evan, but he thought it was Evan. You know? Maybe
right.
it was.
Maybe it was. But there was another thing like that where suddenly, like, anyone wearing New Balance shoes was a suspect, too. Like, that was like the sign, too. And then I looked, and then I was like, wait a minute. Martha wears New Balance shoes. She's part of it, too. Like, it just became so absurd. Like, what? That's so strange, like, that the whole world can turn into one person who's out to get you.
It'd be so scary.
Yeah, I never suffer from that. I was always pretty convinced of that.
When I ran away one time from Heritage, and I was out, like, on the second day, and I was in a car, I'd gotten a ride into Salt Lake City. Everyone in every car looked like staff members to me, you know, I can kind of get that, you know, but that was just me being, like, totally paranoid the entire time. You know, but anyway.
That makes sense. I had a situation like that myself where I was in this town and I suddenly there were and to this day I still don't know if I was delusional or if it was real. But suddenly I realized that there were people following me around, and I knew that if I didn't leave like immediately, that they were going to come get me. And and I have some evidence that tells me that it might be true. Right. But I don't really want to go back and like revisit that, like, and test it out, because I don't want to be. I'd rather be. I'd rather believe that it wasn't true, but not. I'm not going to test it. Yeah. You know, it's like, whoa. Sure. That's it's super creepy. I think that people who go through, you know, traumatic experiences with groups of people certainly can fall into that belief, and you know, sometimes it is true. You know, it's not a delusion. It's no, you really are being followed, and you really are being observed, and yeah.
So there's the Cotard delusion.
That's the opposite, right? Oh no, the Cotard delusion is
it's a walking corpse syndrome thing.
Oh, where people think they're dead.
Yeah.
Right. Wow.
I felt like that some morning.
They stop eating and drinking because the dead person doesn't does things. Right.
Right.
Wow. That's.
I mean, I've had instances in my life where I like questioned if I was still alive. Like, for sure. There were definitely times in my childhood or my teenhood or my adolescence in the places I was in, but also, like, when I was at Winds of Change, like, the repeating of songs from the 70s because of what's his name. So, like, there was kind of, like, a lot of, like, you know, Eagles, you know, Hotel California being played over and over again. And to me, I kept thinking, like, wait, did I die here and I'm just stuck here working on this farm and this is what we do now and this is it? You know, just for, like, a moment or two. But I never felt like I was dead and I didn't have blood and I didn't need to eat. I know I need to eat. Trust me.
Sure. But, you know, that's a pretty good, at the worst, that was a pretty good representation of what someone's idea of hell would be like, I think. Absolutely. Sure. Like, and in hell, you know, I guess you don't need to eat. You don't, I mean, you're already there.
No. Yeah.
You know, you're like, give up. You're already in hell.
Yeah.
So there's another delusion that is kind of the opposite of the idea that one person is out to get you. It's the Capgras delusion theory. It's when people believe that someone they know is not the person they're pretending to be, like it's an imposter. Like, I'm just dressed up to look exactly like me, but I'm not really me.
So I've had this.
Wow.
So when I got sick with encephalitis, pretty deep into it, I was having like seizures every 5 minutes and I was losing my memory on certain days. Like, just like I had, or like I'd ask about something and I'd have no recollection of an event that happened. And I started to believe that, and I was kind of up every night and asleep all day, so I had no real social context, but I was also, like, my brain was under attack. You know, I was going through, like, multiple rounds of, like, multiple car crashes all day. So I started to kind of, like, think that my parents every night were being plugged into a machine and they weren't the people that they thought that they said they were, and that everyone was part of this game, and that I was kind of in this kind of experiment. I don't know how else to explain it. I was kind of crazy, though. That was the beginning of my madness, really.
It's super creepy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of cool.
So, that, I mean, I'm glad you don't think like that anymore.
No, I still do. Dun, 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 dun.
Dun,
No.
dun, dun.
No, I don't.
Well, I think that's a good place to wrap up for the day, and I guess we'll just leave our listeners with this idea: are we really Shorts and Aurelius, or are we really imposters?
Right. Are we really Shorts and Aurelius, or are we really imposters? Yeah.
Yeah.
That's questions.
You know, it's something to ponder.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you can, and people can ponder that while they like or dislike this video.
And subscribe.
I think either way, whether you like it or don't like it, you can subscribe so that you continue to get content that you like or don't like.
And we really like to hear from you, so please, you know, leave a comment if you're listening. Thanks.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.
Bye.